I'm Dr. Joe Esposito, and welcome to our podcast, For the Health of It, episode 13. Be sure to subscribe to this podcast, and you'll never miss an episode on how to naturally get well and stay well.
The information presented on this program is not intended to take the place of your personal physician's advice, and it is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Discuss this information with your own physician or healthcare provider to determine what is right for you.
Are you suffering needlessly? Dr. Joe can give you advice on how to naturally get well and stay well. Dr. Joe Esposito.
Today we're going to talk about something that's really cool. And this is a fun lecture for me because this is kind of where my roots come from. We're going to talk about brain function and neurotransmitters. Now, as a chiropractor, my big thing is that I want to make sure that your brain is sending messages down your spine, out your nerves to every cell in the body, the heart, the lungs, the liver, the spleen. I want to make sure that's happening. Because if a bone moves out of place and pinches a nerve, it hurts 10% of the time. 90% of the time, it doesn't hurt. So you can have a pinched nerve and not know it. So as a chiropractor, my job is try to find out if you have pinched nerves that are causing your pain. And that's the number one reason patients come see us. Neck pain, back pain, shoulder pain, numbness, tingling. But we also want to check the nerves that don't feel pain. Because I always have to laugh. Patients will come in and say, "Doc, I think I have nerve pain." Got a call the other day from a friend of mine's son, actually. And he said, I went to my HMO doctor and they said it's muscle pain. And I said, well, it could be muscle pain, but what gets the message from the muscle to the brain? The nerves. Or somebody says, I have nerve pain. And my response is, well, what other kind of pain is there? All pain has to travel along the nerves. So if you have a pinched nerve, it can hurt, but many times it doesn't hurt. It can affect the function of an organ. And this is the basis of chiropractic. September 18th, 1895, D.D. Palmer in Davenport, Iowa, gave the first chiropractic adjustment to his janitor, Harvey Lillard, and it actually brought his hearing back. Harvey Lillard was deaf, and Dr. Palmer, who was a holistic practitioner, but chiropractic wasn't invented at the time, he asked Harvey what happened, why he went deaf. He says, well, Dr. Palmer, I bent over and picked up a box. I felt my neck pop, and I went deaf. So Dr. Palmer, being holistic oriented, thought, well, maybe if you pinched a nerve and he went deaf, what if we unpinched the nerve? Made sense. So Dr. Palmer felt his neck, felt the bone out of place, pushed on his back, and supposedly the story goes that he heard the carts in the street, the horse carts driven in the street, and he brought his hearing back. So Dr. Palmer thought he had discovered a cure for deafness. Well, if that's the cause of your deafness, he did. Now, my father was deaf. My father fell off a ladder, broke his back, and fractured his skull a few months before I was born. So he didn't have a pinched nerve. He had a damaged nerve, but it wasn't something chiropractic could fix because I worked on him. I'd sent him to other chiropractors, cranial manipulation, and it helped tremendously with his back pain. And he felt great, and it gave him such quality of life, but it didn't bring his hearing back. I think what happened with my father, back then we didn't have MRIs, he cracked his skull open when he fell and landed on his back and then landed on his head and cracked his skull open. He probably broke the little bones inside his ears called the ossicles. And that's probably why he went deaf. Now, we have no proof of this. My dad's passed since then. But Dr. Palmer thought he had found the cure for deafness when in reality he had discovered what would become chiropractic, opening up the nerve supply to the organs. So it was not based on back pain. When it was first originated, Dr. Palmer realized if you pinch a nerve to an organ, the organ can't work. So if you unpinch the nerves, it opens up the nerve supply to the organs. Well, since then it's evolved, and we've got a reputation as chiropractors to be really good at getting rid of back pain, neck pain, shoulder pain, numbness, tingling, sciatica. We're pretty good at that, like amazingly good at it in most cases. But it never gets to, it doesn't get to the issues that Dr. Palmer was addressing if you're just treating people with pain. In our offices, we treat people with pain and we check the nerves that don't feel pain. But as time went on, we discovered chemicals called neurotransmitters. Now, neurotransmitters are chemicals in the brain, and they're the reason the body works. They're the chemicals that make the electrical things fire. So neurons, which are nerves, rely on chemicals called neurotransmitters to speak to each other. So what happens is you generate an impulse. Right now, you're listening to me. So I'm generating an impulse going into your ears. It's vibrating your ossicles. The ossicle is sending a nerve along the auditory nerve, going up to the brain. The brain is processing it. Now, that's traveling along nerves. Now, along nerves, we have something called a synapse. Now, a synapse is a little gap in between the nerves. So you have a nerve fiber, and then you have this little gap, and then you have another nerve fiber, another little gap. And this synapse is where we have chemicals that travel across the synapse. So I touch something hot. Impulse goes from the nerve, from my hand, it synapses up into another nerve, to another nerve, to another nerve, and goes up to the brain. Why do we have these synapses? Why don't we just have a straight cord? Well, it turns out that when a nerve impulse crosses over a synapse, it speeds up. So this is nature's way of making the nerve impulses travel faster than if we didn't have the synapses. And the chemicals inside this synapse, this little gap, is called a neurotransmitter. So the neurotransmitters are the chemicals that make the nerves work. And if you've never heard this, you need to listen. Because the reason you're alive, or perhaps the reason you're sick, is because you don't have the proper neurotransmitters. And we're going to tell you what makes them go bad, what depletes them, and what you can do in each case to try to build them back up again. Isn't that cool? It's kind of fun stuff. So this is like advanced biochemistry for graduate students, postgraduate students, actually. So you're going to get postgraduate class today. Now, the little chemical grouping there, that little gap, is called a boutone, fancy word. You'll never use that ever in your whole life again. But I just want to show you that I could use big words. Now, there's over 100 different types of variations, different variants of neurotransmitters that we've identified. And they regulate things like appetite, mood, mental function, sleep, memory, all of your body's movements, chronic pain control. So what we do when we're dealing with developing drugs when it comes to pain is we try to get drugs to mimic neurotransmitters or suppress neurotransmitters so that the pain reduces. I am fascinated by this. I'm not a pharmacist, so I'm amazed how we can do this. And you know what? Even though I'm a chiropractor and Mr. Holistic, and I'm not against drugs and I'm not against surgery. If I've got a blazing headache, because I have an old head injury, I got hit by a car years ago and landed on my head, and they thought I was dead. It was in Germany. It was between villages in Germany, and this is way, way back, way before cell phones, and a guy came around a corner. I was on a bicycle. He hit me. And they thought I was dead. So somebody came by, they drove into town, they got the ambulance, they brought a doctor out, and they said, the boy's dead. It's done. So when they put me in the ambulance, I moved. They said, he's not dead. How about that? But I landed on my head. So I have a chronic neck injury that, thank goodness for chiropractic care, or else I don't know what I would have done. And I maintain it. But every now and then, if I do something, especially if I sleep wrong, it flares up this headache. So I'll take some acetaminophen, and it'll calm the pain down. And then I'll come to one of my doctors in my offices. We have offices in Marietta, Duluth, and Stockbridge. And I'll say, hey, check me out. Find out why I have a headache. And they'll, oh, yeah, this bone is out of place. They adjust me, and usually within an hour or two, I start to feel better. So the neurotransmitters, like the acetaminophen, if I take acetaminophen, it blocks the chemicals that cause the pain. Doesn't fix anything. But when I'm in pain, I want to get out of pain. Blocks the pain so that I can, again, get it fixed. The problem is that if I just took a pill, whether it's any type of painkiller, and I don't get it fixed, I have to keep taking the pills once the pills wear off. And that's when we start having problems. And that's the big question with the opioid crisis. What do we do about it? And I don't know how much easier I can make the answer for you. Fix the cause of the pain, not just treat the symptoms. Again, I'm not against treating the symptoms, but if you take opioids, some people have a brain that's very addictive. It can be addicted, can get addicted easily. And opioids, once you start taking them, baby, you start feeling good, and your body stops producing its own natural opioids, its own neurotransmitters. Hey, there it goes. And so then you take more and more and more. So we want to get to the cause of your problem and not just treat the symptoms. So drugs are working on either suppressing or stimulating neurotransmitters or acting like neurotransmitters so that the body can do its job. What if, novel idea, what if we just got the body to work normally again? Most cases we can, some we can't. This is why we work so closely with a team of healthcare professionals. We have holistic medical doctors, holistic pediatricians. We have holistic pain management doctors who many times will use medication as part of their treatment. We have surgeons, vascular surgeons, neurosurgeons, brain surgeons. And I have no problem referring to these people, and we co-manage the cases so that we can get the best results for our patients as quickly as possible for the least amount of money. And President Trump, if you're listening, if you have an opening in your cabinet, maybe for, I don't know, Surgeon General, I might be available for that. Because I have the answers, and I don't understand why we're not implementing them. I was talking to somebody the other day, and they were talking about holistic wellness programs that are actually covered by insurance. And there's two, I think, that are out there. And one of them is, was it the Stanford? I think it was a Stanford program. And the Stanford program is, the bottom line is, can we reduce the amount of emergency room visits a patient goes to? And if you can, then they're considering the program a success. That is so low on the scale of what I want to do. Yeah, I want to reduce the amount of emergency room visits, but I want to get in there and fix the problem so that people have a higher quality of life, spend less money on healthcare. Doctors are then excited about seeing patients again and not just being bombarded with paperwork, which is just ridiculous. I cannot tell you how much crazy, insane paperwork we have to fill out on patients for insurance companies that, in the bottom line, in my opinion, doesn't change anything. Patients they're only going to pay for X amount of visits anyway. They're only going to pay X amount of visits for a treatment, and then they just deny the visits many times anyway, even though it was absolutely, positively, 100% without a doubt necessary. And it's really tough to fight the insurance companies. So I'm hoping that changes, because if we change it, the insurance company is going to make more money. Doctors are going to see less patients, have better quality time with patients, and you, the patient, are going to get less expensive health care and more quality health care, is my thoughts. So, off my soapbox for a second here. So if we can get the neurotransmitters working properly, the body has a better chance of functioning normally. And again, the neurotransmitters do a lot of stuff. So we're going to talk about as many neurotransmitters as I can in this segment here. And again, if you miss it, because we're going to get a little complicated here, go to my website, drjoeesposito.com, or just Google Dr. Joe, number one Dr. Joe in the world. And you can listen to this and hundreds of hours of podcasts, because we want to get this information to you. And I know I talk fast. You can tell you, Dr. Joe, you talk fast. And my response is, well, you listen slow. But I'm joking. I do talk fast. So if you want to hear it again and again, because you need to hear something 11 times to make the neurotransmitters imprinted into your brain 11 times, you can go to the website and listen to hundreds of hours of videos and audios. The podcasts are just spectacular. drjoeesposito.com. Just Google Dr. Joe. So let's start out. The main 6 neurotransmitters: adenosine, dopamine, GABA, neuropeptide Y, norepinephrine, and serotonin. Boy, there's a lot of big words, isn't there? 5 of these key nutrients can be pharmacologically managed with over-the-counter substances, like medications. We found medications that can help get rid of the pain, but it doesn't really fix the problem. Sometimes you have to get rid of the pain. I'm not against that. One of them only is modifiable, if that's a word, with lifestyle changes. There's 100 billion cells in your brain and spinal cord. The brain processes 100 trillion instructions every second. Every second, your brain is doing 100 trillion transactions, if you will. Now, this rapid fire instructions through communication of the nerve cells, they're called neurons, and then the neurotransmitters speed up that process. At any given moment, the brain has 14 billion neurons firing at speeds up to 450 miles an hour. Imagine that going on in your brain every given moment. Now, neurons rely on the chemicals called neurotransmitters. Now, we'll start with adenosine. Adenosine binds to adenosine receptors. So what happens is your brain releases a chemical called adenosine. Adenosine is absorbed by adenosine receptor sites, and it makes you tired. It slows down neural activity. It makes you feel sleepy. Blood vessels dilate so that you have good circulation and oxygenation when you're sleeping. Pretty important. Adenosine, it makes you rest. It helps facilitate pain relief, sedation, hypnotic and relaxing properties. It really gets you to relax and drift off. Now, adenosine is also what we call neuroprotective. In situations where tissues are deprived of oxygen or blood, helping to reduce the amount of damage typically caused by these conditions, the adenosine can help protect the nerves. Now, caffeine and theophylline, you probably never heard of theophylline. Theophylline is found in teas, and it's a stimulant. Both they're adenosine antagonists. What that means is these chemicals stimulate the nervous system, caffeine and theophylline. It's like caffeine. So you produce adenosine, it gets absorbed in the adenosine receptor sites. If you drink caffeine or theophylline, it blocks up the adenosine receptor sites, so you can't absorb adenosine, so you don't get tired. So what do? Then you drink more coffee or more tea. And then you produce more receptor sites because your body says, I need to rest. I need to get into that healing mode. So you produce more receptor sites. So then you produce more adenosine, but then you have to drink more coffee or tea to block it up again. And so that's where the problem's coming in. So what you're doing is you're messing with Mother Nature. It's not nice to fool Mother Nature. If you're tired, I'm going to recommend this. Drink more water. Most of you are dehydrated. A lot of you are deficient in B vitamins. Take a B vitamin supplement. We have a Dr. Joe B vitamin supplement now. It's on the website, drjoeesposito.com. I take it every day. If your brain is foggy, if we're having problems in the romantic department, might be a circulatory issue. We have something called Dr. Joe's nitric oxide support. Boy, that's a popular one, let me tell you, especially among the boys. I take that sometimes. And so the nitric oxide and the B vitamins are two supplements I think you should be taking because most people are deficient in that area unless you have a really good diet. And even then, sometimes you are. And then I add Dr. Joe's Super Greens and Dr. Joe's Essential Source. I take that every day. It's sitting here in front of me at the studio because that gives you the minimum amount of nutrients you need to produce the neurotransmitters. If you don't give the raw materials, you can't make the products. So the Super Greens, the Essential Source, one of the many amazing things it does, it gives you the nutrients you need to make neurotransmitters. Then the B vitamins are necessary to make the nerves fire properly. And then the nitric oxide opens up your blood vessels. And all that, and I think you should be taking that, by the way, is on my website, drjoeesposito.com, or just Google Dr. Joe. Now, folks, again, we have offices in Marietta, Duluth, and Stockbridge. If you want to come see us as a patient, we would love the opportunity to see you and be your doctors. All my doctors are handpicked by me, trained by me, and are my personal doctors. So any treatment I'm going to give you, they're going to give you as good or better than I am. But you can come see us here. Again, offices in Marietta, Duluth, and Stockbridge, and I'd love to meet you personally. So if you go to my website, you can make an appointment, drjoeesposito.com, or just Google Dr. Joe. The phone number, 844-44-DR-Joe, if you need it. But I'd love to have you come in. Now, if you make an appointment, be ready to make a change in your life. Don't make an appointment if you're not ready to do something. Because I don't want to waste your time. I don't want to waste my time. We are very busy. Patients love us, 99% of them. And we'd love to have the opportunity to make you part of our team. So if you want to make an appointment, drjoeesposito.com. We accept most insurances, no insurances, car accidents, sports injuries. Even if you see that we're not in your network, let us check your insurance because many times there's out-of-network benefits. And many times, even if we're not in your network, there's a reason why doctors drop out of networks. They're not getting paid anything, or certainly enough to make it worthwhile. But with deductibles and co-pays, many times it's cheaper if you don't have insurance. So if you want to go to our website, make an appointment right now, drjoeesposito.com, or just Google Dr. Joe. So we're talking today about neurotransmitters, and these are the chemicals that make your nerves work because the nerves control everything. So we started talking about adenosine, and adenosine makes you tired. And so caffeine blocks up your adenosine receptor sites and you don't get tired. Now in America, 90% of adults consume caffeine every day. 90% of you out there are consuming caffeine every day. It's the most widely used drug in the world. The problem is that the more you block up the adenosine receptor sites, the more adenosine receptor sites the body makes, and you're messing with your brain. May not be the best organ to mess with. So if you do caffeine, or theophylline, which is similar to caffeine found in teas, it alleviates drowsiness, it enhances alertness, it blocks the adenosine receptor sites, and raises the level of dopamine in your brain's pleasure centers. Dopamine, we're going to talk about that if we have time today. Dopamine is a neurotransmitter that gives you pleasure. And so when you're drinking coffee, you're awake and you're starting to feel pleasure. So why wouldn't you drink it? Well, let me tell you why. If you read my book that came out not too long ago, several months ago, called Prescription for Extreme Health, I have a whole chapter on coffee. And coffee's an acid. Acid robs your body of calcium. Calcium helps relax your nerves and your muscles, so you need calcium. But whenever you put an acid in your body has to neutralize the acid and uses calcium to neutralize the acid. So you're sucking essentially calcium out of your blood and bones to neutralize the acid. Coffee is one of the most highly sprayed foods in the world as far as chemicals and pesticides go. So in that cup of Joe that you're drinking, you're probably drinking lots of chemicals and pesticides as well. It's a diuretic, makes you pee, so it dehydrates you, which makes you more tired, ironically. So you need more coffee. There's a lot of downsides to coffee too. You can get all the upsides from other things with none of the downside. You get more energy, you can get your antioxidants that coffee they praise about with coffee. So there's a lot of positive things that you can get from the coffee and other foods that won't give you the negatives. What happens is the activation of numerous neural connections by caffeine also causes the pituitary gland to secrete hormones that in turn cause the adrenal glands to produce adrenaline or epinephrine, same thing. Now, adrenaline gives you energy as well. So now you're not getting tired from blocking the adenosine. The pituitary gland is releasing hormones to stimulate the adrenals to produce more adrenaline. So you're feeling pretty good with this coffee, aren't you? Now, I can't drink caffeine. I get a headache. Like within an hour or two, I get a headache. So I can't do any caffeine anyway. But you're getting this buzz and you're liking it, man. It's some good stuff. But there's a big downside to it. Now, if you keep stimulating the adrenal glands or any gland, you can burn it out. And if your adrenal glands burn out, you start to see other symptoms, chronic fatigue, low sex drive, hormone issues. Your body is inflamed and puffy. And you ever see somebody that's just kind of puffy if you shake their hand or hug them? Many times that's the body not producing the right amounts of prostaglandins. Prostaglandins are produced by the adrenal glands. So you see this big cascade effect that happens when you start drinking coffee to mess with adenosine? A lot of stuff goes on. Adrenal glands burn out. One sign is bags under the eyes. You stand up, you get dizzy. You ever get that? That's called postural hypotension. Many times that's the adrenals as well. So what we do, I've got something called Dr. Joe's Adrenal Supplements. Again, I created supplements for the most common problems that people have. So adrenal supplements, I take those every day as well because as you get older, the adrenal glands do have a tendency to get weaker. And as long as I keep feeding them, I don't stimulate my adrenals. I'm feeding my adrenals like a plant. I'm going to give it fertilizer to grow its own natural way. I don't want to stimulate a gland. I want to feed it. So that's why another supplement I take is Dr. Joe's Adrenal Supplements. Super Greens, Essential Source, Dr. Joe's Adrenal Supplements. I take vitamin K2, vitamin K3, vitamin D3 with K2 in the winter. In the summer, I don't because I'm out in the sun a lot. I get my own vitamin there. But the K2 is a good thing to take every day. So what we do with our patients when they come in, of course, as chiropractors, we check their spine. We want to make sure the spine is working properly. But then we also check their diets because I want to make sure you're getting all the raw materials that your body needs to function at its optimum level. And I always say, if nothing else, at least take Dr. Joe's Super Greens, if nothing else, and Essential Source. I'm sorry, I take one of each. At least take that. But if you really want to get serious about wanting to get well and things that you can control, I would take several other supplements as well. And we do a complete dietary workup on our patients. We find out what they should be eating, what they shouldn't be eating. We recommend a supplement protocol, usually a 60-day protocol. Then we have them come back in. We reevaluate them because we want to make sure we're managing your health and you're not just shotgunning. Well, I heard adrenal supplements are good. I'm going to take adrenal supplements. Well, yeah, that's a good idea, but that's a piece of the puzzle. What else can we do? I had a friend of mine the other day. I was talking to her and she was very sick. And she said, I thought I was going to just be on my deathbed the rest of my life. And her husband at the time had put together a fund to pay for her medical care and eventually her permanent caretaking and eventually her demise. And she was basically going to die. So she really turned her diet around, got straightened out, and now she's perfectly fine. She's functioning well. She's doing great. And she's on a crusade to try to teach people that you can turn your life around, even though her diagnosis was like no chance of recovery. She got better by changing her diet. And what did she do? She got chiropractic care to open up her nerve supply. She got on a good diet. She took supplements, ate a lot of raw foods. And so it can turn around. So the good news is that nothing is, well, not many things are not permanent if you have the tools to get yourself well. So we don't want to burn out the adrenal glands by taking too much coffee. Okay, and that's adenosine. My goodness, look at the time. Holy cow. I want to cover dopamine. Dopamine is the neurotransmitter that makes you feel good. That's the pleasure neurotransmitter. We're going to talk about how you can stimulate dopamine production, things that suppress the dopamine production, and the other things that you need to do. Gosh, I got so many I may have to do 2 shows on this, actually, because I got a lot more to cover. And we're going to talk about why women crave carbohydrates more than men and what that actually means. So, folks, if you want to make an appointment to come see us for chiropractic care, for nutritional work, we like to do both, by the way. If you have digestive problems, which I'm going to talk about next, Go to my website, drjoeesposito.com, or just Google Dr. Joe, number one Dr. Joe in the world, and we would love to set up a time for you to come see us. We have offices in Marietta, Duluth, and Stockbridge. No insurance, lots of insurance, partial insurance, car accidents. I've never seen a car accident, by the way, where the car was damaged where the occupants weren't. Ever. So if you're in an accident, the insurance company says you weren't hurt, there wasn't a lot of damage to your car, you want to get it checked. Okay, don't trust somebody who never went to chiropractic or medical school deciding the future of your health. So if you want to make an appointment, drjoeesposito.com, and just Google Dr. Joe. You can also order the supplements on the website, also on Amazon too. If you want to go to Amazon, you can do that there. We have an Amazon account. Thanks for listening, folks. Catch you next time. Thanks for listening to For the Health of It. Remember to subscribe to this podcast, and I'll help you naturally get well and stay well. You can also listen to and call into my radio show live Sunday evenings from 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on WSBRadio.com and on the WSB Radio app.